Hi everyone and welcome back to another Win with Armagh podcast. We're in Shelbourne Motors here, who we have partnered up with for this latest competition. We're looking ahead to the massive semi-final coming up on Sunday. It's Armagh taking on Down, so we're in Newry, an appropriate place to be, and we've two appropriate men to talk about this big game. It's Kevin McKernan and Stevie McDonnell, and Kevin, I'll come to you first because Down have really been the story this week, and there's a lot of talk about them obviously going into the Ulster semi-final. Just tell us a bit about the Donegal game on the win and the surprise that everybody else felt. Maybe the people in Down didn't think it was that big of a surprise.
It was actually probably the belief I got probably came from one of the management team. I met Tony McEntee at the Ulster College's All-Stars. His son Keenan got an All-Star with the Abbey this year, and I was speaking to Tony, went and wished him good luck, and he says, listen, we're going up there, we're confident, we have a real good plan and we're going to take a real cut at it. And I sort of looked at him going, do you know what, he's on this. Like, they are going there with a real confident game plan, and I think after 10 minutes you could see the team were growing into the game but just really couldn't get a foothold to get a couple of points ahead, enough that their positive start sort of justified. And then the goal that Donegal got, you were sort of thinking, is this going to be another day of good positive performance, and didn't get over the line. But God, the way it finished out and the confidence in which they did it, they're used to the ball, and again just the speed of their hands, and very similar, saying the men during the week, very similar the way they play, and Armagh and Down will go toe to toe on Sunday. We're just glad people are talking about us now again, and again that aura around Donegal, and the fact that Jim McGuinness had only lost one championship game in Ulster before that, so listen, it's a win that Down people have really enjoyed, but I think it's no good unless you go and back it up. And listen, going and beating Armagh is going to be huge, but going in and putting another real good performance and seeing where that takes them, and again probably what they said about the last 10 minutes of the Donegal game, getting into that final stretch, I think that'll be a target for the Down team this Sunday.
They were impressive, Stevie, weren't they? Like, as I said, they upset the odds. Nobody expected it, nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, but as Kevy says, he was speaking to Tony McEntee, and he was pretty confident. Tony always will be confident anyways. He's a fantastic way about himself, good coach as well. Marty Clark, who's in McLeavy, was saying the exact same. He felt very good about the whole setup. Not that he would say too much to me, but he definitely felt confident going up to Letterkenny last week, and that's the way exactly it panned out. The end result, I think, probably flattered Donegal a wee bit. 6 points in it in the end, and Down for me were probably about 12-15 points a better team. And what was probably more encouraging from a Down point of view was how they responded every time Donegal came back at them. Kevin mentioned the Donegal goal, but within 20 seconds Down were in a 1-on-1 situation again and automatically responded to a setback. And the few times that Donegal did draw level, it was always Down that kicked on with the next point or two, and you have to give them huge credit for that. And you don't get that overnight. That doesn't come overnight. Obviously Conor Laverty has instilled a real belief in this team over the course of the last couple of years, but without a shadow of a doubt, they fully deserved that victory last weekend.
There's so many crossovers, Kevin, between the management teams. Like, we're talking about Marty Clarkson with Stevie and Cleavey, so he's seen all the players in the club championship last year. You have Tony McEntee, obviously, in Armagh on. Mickey Donnelly teaches in Lurgan, and then the Armagh side, Conall Gilligan was in with Kilcoo when they won All Ireland. Kieran McKeever has managed Mayo Bridge in the past, so there's so many connections. And obviously you're in the Abbey CBS at the minute, which is probably split 50-50 Armagh Down, so everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows what to expect come Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's something that I'm just seeing sort of from the kids in both counties in school, like the energy to play football for young boys at the minute, particularly after Armagh's success in the All Ireland, and when the lads are going to school with Armagh lads and the team's moving well and they're playing together in school, you get that real sense of young fellas want to have that big dream of Clones, of Crow Park, and that big day out. So this Sunday's massive, and as you said, the learning from both teams. I don't know how they would plan this week to say, listen, right, what do you know about this group? What do you know here? What did we do last year against each other or the year before? And the last time they played 2 years ago, yes, different rules and all of that, but Down again went with belief there, didn't get it done, and as much as they got it done against Donegal, the learnings from both management teams will determine whether Down go after Armagh in a similar way or the tactics change. And that's something that I'm really curious about on Sunday, is Down talked about how they went after Donegal, and I think you could see in the Armagh game actually against Fermanagh, like, unless you really, really go and have a cut at it early doors and get that lead built up, you can adapt your game plan sort of within that. But listen, the learnings, Conn Gilligan in Kilcoo with Rivalry, I think the biggest thing then as well, the internals of clubs as well, like Marty O'Cleavy, and seeing players who the matchups are going to be intriguing, and again it's all that knowledge, bringing it together. And listen, Tony from Cross, like Tony McEntee for me growing up as well, like I remember watching Armagh going, like the skill set and the drive, and then with Byrne going against Cross McLean, they just carried that aura and belief. And if that's rubbing off on the down players, and that's the reason we brought in, he's a great experience at inter-county level, and he's now tapping into all that knowledge and bringing it to the down players, and we're grateful for that. So I was thinking of that today, Steve. You were grateful of Paddy Rourke back in the day too. You had him.
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, there's always been a healthy rivalry between Down and Armagh, definitely in my time. I know probably in the 90s that rivalry was more of a bitterness rivalry, but certainly over the last 2 decades or so it's been healthy, probably because Armagh have had the upper hand more so than most. But listen, there's a lot of respect between Down players and Armagh players, always has been. I played with Ireland on many occasions and played with Kevy on a few occasions as well, and I would always say that likes of Benny Coulter and Kevy and Boysiga were the best friends. We connected better than most on those type of tours, and also I think it's we live in very similar circumstances, very similar locations, and we go out in the same places as well, so living amongst each other and on top of each other probably helps in one way, but can come against you in another way as well. And so come Sunday there'll be no I suppose healthy rivalry there. It'll be all hell for leather.
Just when we mentioned that'll be CBS, Kevin, obviously is such a successful year. This year winning the McCrory Cup the first time since you were at school 20 years ago. So the Armagh and Down mix, I think the team was fairly split. Was it 7-8?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Yeah, so like these boys, Armagh and Down, they've probably been through school together and stuff, so like there's always going to be that healthy rivalry there.
I think that was like even this year. There's one fella came from County Louth down to, he's got a Down father, Mickey Medine from Cross Primary School principal. Crazy, like the crossover. But like there was 18 Down and 18 Armagh, and when you bring them together, and obviously being in the school myself, the rivalry's there, but when they actually go and play together, and the friendships they build, the same with myself, like I've really good friends with Darren Rowland that I played with, Collaville fella, that and we built that connection even in the past 2 years with, unfortunately, the passing of Mr. Gormley. And I think Jody was always one that sort of spoke about like wearing that jersey, and no matter where you came from, that jersey represented a group of people. And the Armagh Down connection this year, particularly when we seen them go to battle against Derry, Derry Team Mahara and the Tyrone schools in Omagh and Dungannon. We were talking just about like the rivalry and the Tyrone Donegal's Armagh Down, and when the two counties came together this year, and again just from a coaching point of view, there's such a nice balance between them, and the understanding within game plan and training and how they went at each other in training, and all for the good of their school. So yes, two counties, but just the way they played as well, you take great pride that that 20-year gap. And again, it's for both counties that, when you're winning schools competitions, we know there'll be a knock-on effect now to county under-20 squads. Jermid and Keelan we had the Armagh under-20s, and same with Down, Danny McKernan and Dara Haburn. So listen, there's more players coming through, and I can see the good work the clubs are doing in both counties, and please God, it'll not be the last McCrory Cup final we're in for a while anyway. And
just back to Armagh, Stevie, I suppose Saturday night against Fermanagh, what did you make of them? I suppose the game was more or less over at half time. They were 16 points up. They conceded 120 in the second half, but the game was never really close. It never felt like Fermanagh were coming back into the game. So how do you judge it?
I thought Armagh done what they had to do. I thought they were very efficient in front of goals in the first half. Some of their link-up play and score taking was very good. I think it was 15 out of 15 opportunities, the first 15 shots. That's some scoring, that's some record to have, regardless of your opponent. At half time you could say that game was really put to bed, but to be fair to Fermanagh and McKernan in particular, he shot the lights out in the second half. 9 2-pointers they kicked, and they weren't your run of the mill average 2-pointers that were around the edge of the arc. They were outside 45 yards, most of them, and It's spectacular kicking. You know, from Anna's point of view, they would have preferred to be a wee bit closer at half time, but I think Armagh, listen, it's very easy to say that they got complacent in the second half, whatever, but it'll probably be just a gentle reminder to them, regardless of your opponents. You know, any team within Ulster can come back at you, and, you know, thankfully Armagh had built up a good enough lead. But I was very impressed with their first half display, and it was also good to get boys back in amongst the team and get some game time in the likes of Barry McCambridge, boys who got there, because they're invaluable players for Armagh and very important players further down the line, and hopefully that bit of game time will stand to them come this weekend.
Yeah, I suppose that's worth talking about, Stevie, because of the injury crisis sort of Armagh went through last week. Like, they lost Creeley, Callum O'Neill, Gareth Murphy, Joe McElroy, Greg McCabe all picked up knocks on Monday night, last Monday night. So like said, Barry Cambridge coming back in, you had Daniel McGee on his debut, Ryan Duffy made his debut, Kieran Mackin come back in. Like, I know Kieran McGeeney laughed during the league that it felt like one in, one out basically with his injuries, and that has sort of continued in the championship.
Yeah, and that's the impact that a strong squad has as well, you know, and Geezer on his backroom team built up the squad depth over the last number of years, and it's no coincidence that they're starting to utilise it a wee bit more and use it a wee bit more. Ryan Duffy, as we all know, within Armagh, is a very talented young footballer that probably deserved his opportunity. His debut was going to come sooner or later regardless. And, you know, Armagh have an abundance of talented young players, and sometimes you have to throw them in and give them that opportunity, and it might be the best way forward as well. But I think it was a bit bizarre set of circumstances that 4 or 5 key players picked up. Niggles, I know Ben Creeley's is more longer term with breaking an ankle, but I think the other boys will be back and raring to go for this weekend, alright.
And one individual down player I suppose we have to talk about is Owen Murdoch. Kevin, obviously a club mate of your own. He's somebody that has been coming through the last couple of years that really, when it comes to the big occasion, like last week, like Monaghan last year, like Galway last year, he's the man that steps up and really takes the game by the scruff of the neck. So tell us a wee bit about Owen and maybe how Armagh going to handle him.
Yeah, listen, he's and it's particularly when I look at the type of player that the new game is really accommodating, and just the space that he can create, you know, his control of the ball, both feet, you know, and probably the big thing from a club point of view is, like, we have seen this coming under 12s, under 14s, the stuff he was doing, but I'm just delighted that he's really taken that step from under 20 to the seniors, and not only has he come into the team and developed his own football, but he's really led the team, and his football quality shining. And as you said, like, the quality teams he faced last year was big units against Galway, similarly against Louth and Uri. That game in particular, I watched them that day thinking to myself, you know, every pocket that he was looking for, either a kick pass or through the hands, he was able to guide his teammates around him as well. So listen, he's the scary thing, he's still only 22, 23 years of age, and for me, I think, you know, his attitude to getting better is the thing that we see him in Burn all the time, you know, in the gym or out taking shots and different things. So he's never a stranger around the club, and you know, I think probably 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I seen him take on an under 16 team for a bit of a training session. So he knows that sort of the importance of the knock-on effect, and you know, you see it, I'm sure, at training with Down day to day, what the effect he could have, but we can see it in our club as well. As a brilliant footballer, he's a good lad, and I think the trajectory that he's on, it'll be no surprise that, you know, the Down team will hopefully follow that, and you know, hopefully Sunday we'll see another good steady performance from him.
Armagh sort of have to go after him, Stevie, don't they? Yeah. He's one of the players that have to man mark, basically. There has to be a man set on him. Yeah,
well, listen, every team has their key players. You know, Owen Murdoch is definitely Down's main player, along with Daniel Gaines. I thought he was fantastic at the weekend as well. But I think what's class about Odrin is that he's very balanced off both feet. You know, he's very cool in possession of the ball, and he has a great ability for such a big man to find pockets of space in behind the opponent's defence and bear down a goal. And once he's burned down a goal, like Michael Murphy in his pomp, you know, he's very hard to stop, and Armagh have to try to stop him getting into those pockets of space, because you know, the outcome is normally either a down goal or a point, and a very important point at that. So he's just a class act. He's one of the best midfielders at the minute in the country, and midfield has been a bit of an issue for Armagh over a number of games now, since obviously Ben Creeley got injured, and missing out in the likes of Niall Grimley and Rain this year has been a bit of a loss as well. But Andrew McKernan came back in last week as well, and he's a big presence for Armagh around that middle sector, and hopefully somebody, whoever will be identified, of curbing the influence of Odin, will be able to come in and do a job on him, because it's not going to be an easy task. But if you can curb the influence, I always say a player of that ability will always have a level of influence on the game. You just have to try to nullify that to some extent, and if whoever geezer tasked with that job can carry that out, then Armagh will go a long way to winning this game.
And Stevie, the midfield battle that you're speaking about there, is Ethan Rivalry going to be involved in that? We don't know if he's even going to be playing. Is he starting? Is he going to be in nets? He's going to be in midfield. But I suppose if he does start, you'd expect him on the down kickouts. He'll be coming out the field to create an extra body for Armagh around there. And on his own kickouts, he's looking to avoid Owen Murdoch, obviously.
Yeah, Ethan definitely has that presence in the air, so he does. And we've seen him coming up the field. Even coming up the field last week and being able to kick 2-pointer frees is a massive thing for Armagh point of view. Last year he played goals in the Ulster final and was absolutely instrumental in cutting out Donegal's supply around the middle of the park by his high fielding. So it'll be interesting to see whether the management team opt for Ethan in goals or even put him out towards midfield.
It's actually a huge thing for Down. Like, Down go into this game planning for Ethan, and then all of a sudden Blaine's in. It's just it's a massive knock-on effect of actually what we planned during the week. It's different.
Yeah, two totally different goalkeepers and two totally different scenarios. You know, Ethan can play obviously in goals and come out high for kickouts, but he can also play midfield and he can be an effective player for midfield as well. And if that's the case, we all know how calm and composed Blaine is on his kickouts as well, and controlled. And that's the beauty about having two top class keepers that are capable of stepping in and out of the team. They always seem to put in big performances, and it's just a dilemma for the management team at the minute, given the knock-on effect of the injuries in round midfield and missing a few key players there at the minute.
And goalkeepers, obviously.
This time with all these injuries.
No, but we're saying they're coming back.
Definitely.
They'll be there. Kevin, Down's goalkeeper, Ronan Burns, obviously he's had this maybe only his second year on the panel, I think.
Possibly year 3. I think the first year might have been a sub, coming out of the under-20 campaign. Yeah,
he's been magnificent. Like he was last year. I've seen him a couple of times. He was really good, and he's maybe only sort of getting the credit now for on the national stage.
You know, you hear during the week the reflection of the Donegal game and how much the Donegal midfield was so imposing, and Down had to outthink that, but they've had to outthink that for 3 or 4 years. They probably had to do it for 10 years. Down haven't been blessed with midfielders who can go on field. You're looking at Daniel Guinness playing midfield, 5'10", and not going to go on field for you, but you have to think around that. And I think even during the National League, I watched Down against Westmeath and Uri, and Westmeath were huge right along, and they were able to pick those pockets a bit like the other day. And I think the reps that teams must be doing on kickouts at the minute, and the Armagh Tyrone game actually went down to that, and I was right in behind the Tyrone dugout at the time, and they were asking the press to get up. Blaine was picking great pockets, and it was fascinating to watch the movement of the players out the field. Like the keepers just waited and waited and waited until they were happy with the space that they liked. And I think that's what Ronan brings to his game. There's a calmness there. He knows he has to pick a pocket. Unless it arrives, if he doesn't like it, it goes to a nice contest, which is the piggery that McGeaney talks about, and that's what it is. Like
normally that calmness comes given a few years' experience. He's such a young fella to have that coolness and calmness already. Is he 18, 19?
No, he's 20, 21. Right,
for such a young fella, it takes a few years to get that level of confidence in his own ability to play at that level.
Yeah, when he was in with the Down team, and actually like at 19 years of age, and you're going 19, doing nets, you're looking out, and to pick some of the kicks that he's doing, and again, it's probably teams are so similar. Like if you look at the half back line of Armagh and the half back line of Down, and you've got players there that are, yes, they're going, like Jardy O's probably the tallest out of the two half back lines, but they're all winning kickouts and pockets of space. They're all really good on the ball, and when they win that kickout, they know they have to turn out. There's no one to go back to now. You have to go and get forward on it. So listen, again, kickouts, it'll be intriguing on Sunday, and thankfully Ronan and again the development in his game, where's he going to go for us in the next few years, which is brilliant, you know.
We'll talk about the half-back lines, Gavin, now that you've mentioned them. Obviously, Armagh's half-back line contributed 0-9 against Fermanagh. We've seen like Keown Mooney coming back into the starting team. Daniel Guinness maybe plays in around the half-back line sometimes too. Like, for an attacking force, they're both sides, there's such a big scoring presence in the half-back line.
It's the scoring presence and their influence on other scores as well. Like you look at Jardy Og, and it's actually mirroring the two of them during the week, thinking Shane Annett from Down, he's very sort of underrated or come under the radar. He used to probably play more in the half forward line. He's playing 6 for Down at the minute, and it's just turned the team more athletically opposing coming from the half back line. You know, between Jardy Og, TK, McQuillan the other day, like I just thought he was fantastic, like, and particularly against Tyrone as well, when Armagh needed big scores, and he got the crowd going as well. He put one over and he turned straight to the crowd, and he knew we're driving this team from this line. And probably with Down on Sunday, you know, when Oran got on the ball or Daniel Guinness got on the ball, they had hard runners coming from the defence. And Keelan, you know, for me, I was just so glad to see that lad back playing for Down this year. Sort of last year when I heard he had retired, I went to myself, probably a year or two left in him, you know. And again, just the way the game is moving now with the new rules, it suits him down to the ground, the pace.
Listen, he proved his worth to Down on Sunday. The point before half time, you know, skill, not too many players would have had the capacity to kick it that fast, but with the outside of his boot as well. And also the energy of chasing Conor O'Donnell down. Not too many players can keep up Conor O'Donnell. Chasing him down, turning him over and putting him down back in the attack. That was brilliant. Like he was very, very good for them. And he does offer that, given the way the game is played now.
Yeah, it's huge.
The Armagh attacking threat, we're talking about the half back line, Stevie, but Conor Turbot found a bit of form on Saturday night, scored 1-6. Oisín Connolly got 0-5. Dar McMullen, I think he kicked 2. He got the first 2-pointer of the game, but he's been playing really good stuff as well. So a lot of attacking threats, and then you've Oisín O'Neill probably going to come off the bench as well. Yeah,
I think it looks like Oisín is the new Soupy of the team, and he's having an immediate impact. He had 6 points or so, 5 or 6 points the other night within 10 minutes of coming into the game. What an impact he had. But it's brilliant to see Turbot find a bit of form. I think he was awarded the Man of the Match award on the Facebook page. It was great to see, because Turbot is a key player for us, and we need Turbot to be firing all cylinders, and somebody with his skill set and speed is massive. I love watching Oisín Connolly and how he plays his football. He's so direct, so pacey, and he can split teams open when he's going hard at you. And he must be an absolute nightmare for anyone to mark. Dar McMullen is really finding his feet at 11, so he is for Armagh. Being able to pull the strings the way he does. Dropping deep, but his energy getting back up the field is massive as well, and he's starting to score more regularly now as well, and that comes with getting more game time and getting more confidence within the team as well. But there's plenty of options there now, whether to put McKernan out towards midfield or into full forward, and I was glad to see Geezer taking him off when he did at the weekend, because you know he throws himself about and he puts himself into the wars a wee bit, but you have to sometimes mollycoddle a player as well, and Andrew McKernan is one of those players that we just have to watch and mind as best we possibly can. And you know, I think on average Armagh have about 10 scorers most games, and to have that level of score takers is massive. And like, it's not easy for an opponent like Down this weekend to say, right, if we curb the threat of Oisín Connolly, you know, somebody else is going to step up. If we curb the threat of Turbot and Connolly, we know there's other players that are going to step up to the mark and create opportunities. Whether or not they're as clinical as what they were last weekend remains to be seen. But it's a good place to be from an Armagh point of view, that you have that level of scores in most games. And I think Down had plenty of scores last weekend as well.
Actually, Cian McConville was another player. Watched so close, and it was actually the Down and Armagh McKernan Cup game this year. I was covering it with Ulster GA, and looking at Cian McConville that night, and it was a tussle with Paddy McCarthy, and you were looking at him thinking, like, Armagh need the likes of that player to come through now to add another layer of a
and
forward.
he has, to be fair, he has been very consistent throughout the course of the league. You would say that he's definitely, along with Greg McCabe, who's been brilliant in the half-forward line, they've been Armagh's most consistent players.
Defensively, Kevin, we're talking about Armagh's scoring power. We've rounded off 3, 4, 5 forwards that probably need watch there. Like, you can't mark everybody, I suppose. And down, I'm trying to think of their matchups last week. I think McAvoy went after Murphy, Pierce Laverty went to Conor O'Donnell, and I think Peter Fagan picked up Oisin Gallen. So how do you see down lining up? Like, you can't mark 4, 5, 6 players. So how do down sort of handle
Pierce
it?
Laverty, watching him closely in the past few years, has had big jobs. You know, maybe against Derry, I watched Jim McGuigan one day, and you just looked at the tenacity to stay man to man and against Westmeath, and he slipped in my mind the full forward for Westmeath.
Luke Lachlan, is it? Yeah.
And I went to that game going, I can't wait to see him play here. Pierce, and the job he did on that night, I think Lachlan still kicked maybe 5, 6 points, but you go now, Pierce has turned himself into a real good man marker, and I think he'll probably go to Turbot, and then he goes himself, if Merlin lands in the full forward, it's probably a notch enough match up for Ram McAvoy. So you're looking at that going, you know, the pace, the size, but
who do you think picks up Connolly?
You're looking at Connolly. I think they could go Keelan Doherty from Kilcoo. I think they might roll him back. He went to Shane Walsh last year. So random, took him right back to there. So something like that might arrive. And then I'm looking at Darren McMullen. Like, again, as you're saying, the attention that goes to Connolly. He checked a great point against Derry off his left foot, and you know, yes, you'd see him as a real sort of pacey, dynamic player, but to have the control then to kick a point like that. So, like, when you match them all up, there probably is a player for everyone, but where they go with them, and trying to utilise your own strengths, like Keelan Doherty, if they bring him right back to man mark there, he's probably 20 metres deeper in the pitch to go and hurt the team offensively. So, it's going to be interesting. I would say there's some head scratching this week, and you're trying to second guess what Armagh are doing.
You know, we haven't a clue what the management teams are thinking of, and the one thing you can be guaranteed is both the Armagh management team, they're trying to identify their key man markers, and the down one as well. They'll have changed their mind so many times. From now till Sunday, they'll have changed their mind, and possibly even the morning of the game. And it's hard to get it so right, so it is. And different scenarios run over your head, and then you have a split second, you say, no, maybe I'm wrong in this one. But whatever to go with, you know, if they get it wrong, they could be punished heavily, severely punished, and if they get it right, then you know they're tactical geniuses, and that's the reality of it. And it is a fine line, but certainly what Kevin says, yes, you would identify players in the down setup that are capable of marking the Armagh players, and vice versa. But it's the split decisions of on the sideline getting them decisions right is so fine.
I suppose defensively for Armagh's point of view, Stevie, like the obvious matchup is Aaron McKay on Pat Haverin. He's probably physically the match for him, and then you've Adam Crimmins in there who probably is under the radar. Like you mentioned the Louth game last year, Kevin, he sort of caught the headlines for his big block at the end, but he kicks 4 or 5 points at the weekend, so you have him to worry about too.
McGill as well, he's a live wire out around the field. He does a lot of the hard work for the team up there, and I think Gareth Murphy will be given a job of some capacity. Whether I do believe it'll be Aaron McKay on what do you call him?
Pat Haverin.
Pat Haverin, yeah. You know, Pat Haverin lines out of 14, Aaron's going to be lining out of 3 anyways. Gareth Murphy, as we know, is comfortable playing cornerback, and he can play at 6 as well. So whether he wants to put him out there at 6, he had a real impactful game against Tyrone from there. And but you know, that's the dilemma and the scenarios that's thrown upon the Armagh management team as well. Pat Haverin certainly needs to be watched. Brendan Cole last week is seen as one of the best fullbacks in the country, and you know, he took him for a journey around Letterkenny, so he did, and kicked a couple of brilliant 2-pointers as much as well as normal 1-pointers. And we've come to expect that of Pat Haverin nowadays. He's a brilliant marksman, so he is, and if you give him a split second or an opportunity, he's going to punish you. So Aaron McKay, you know, I would still say Aaron McKay done a brilliant job marking David Clifford in the league game, even though David Clifford scored 10 points. You know, and that's the level some players are at. It goes back to the point that I made earlier on. Sometimes you can only curb the influence of a real good player, and the way the game is played with these new rules and all. You know, Pat Haverin, I would expect, will score come the weekend, but will he be held scoreless?
What's reasonable for an instant? Like when you played, I think a reasonable score now.
I think for a player to hold Pat Haver now, if you can hold him to 4 points.
I turbid the other day, like if you're lining up and you're going, there's runners coming through, Charlie O's coming through, and you're trying to deal with, is he giving it, is he coming on the loop? It's likely to be a shot.
Yeah.
And if you put enough pressure on to make a turnover, it's because someone else is coming to help you. So like it literally is, you're looking at someone scoring 5 points minimum, and you're thinking if you keep him to 4, you've done well.
Yeah. I think that's the target, if we can keep him the 4 points anyway, and stop Daniel Guinness breaking forward. You know, I think a massive move from the Downs point of view was moving him from midfield back to wing half back. I think it's strengthened their half back line, and it's given them real driving force, and he wherever he gets the energy to drive forward and open pockets of space, he's brilliant, and he's brilliant at giving the wee 1-2 passes as well. And he's as instrumental to Down as Murdoch is as well, and you know, those are key players that we have to stop.
Yeah. Big question, Kevin, who's going to win it? You'll either have an enjoyable day in the Abbey on Monday, or you have a phone in sick.
So they're already chatting Monday's the bank holiday, so we're actually,
that's right.
We've got Monday to pause until Tuesday reflections, but I really don't know, man. I really don't. I'm looking at Down's performance, and I know they'll bring those players right back down to say this is what's possible. You know, and to think that Down haven't won an Ulster title since 1994. I think we've been in 4 finals since that. This group of players they've won under 20s under Connor. The older lads have been damn close to getting to finals. I do think it's possible to get close to that performance, to repeat what they did in Ballybuffet. You know, you're just hoping, or in Letterkenny, in 2010 we beat Donegal in Ballybuffet, and we went out and got beat by Tyrone, because you went for that big win against Donegal. You had to then go against Tyrone 2 weeks later. For both teams to go a week back to back, you know, there's no way both teams can go and put up the score that what did Armagh score, 232?
Yeah.
Like, that is some scoring. Like, and you know, if both teams, there'll be some phase where maybe a wee bit slower, but if both teams go at this, it could be another shootout of 125 each. And there's your draw 125. What happens on Sunday if it's a draw? It's not penalties.
Hopefully not penalties.
You know, you probably have to ask yourself as well. Down have come through a far tougher game, a far tougher test than what Armagh did the weekend. And what's the motivating factor for this weekend? Because, you know, Conor Laverty did say that he had a screen saver on his phone for 3 weeks. You know, and that I would use that as well. I would absolutely use that. But where's the motivating factor coming against Armagh? Is it just local rivalry and that there? I think sometimes you have to have a wee bit of an edge as well. And I'm not saying that Down won't have it. I think they'll be on a crest of wave after last weekend's performance. I think that'll instill a serious amount of belief and confidence. And the energy they brought to last Sunday's performance will totally outweighed what Donegal brought to it. Can they rise to those levels again in a packed Clonus? And it is going to be a packed Clonus, so it is. There's so many people going. We've seen, once the tickets went on sale yesterday, the queues outside Super Values, you know, and that's brilliant to see. We need that local rivalry. We need that intensity in these games. But are Down going to be capable of rising to that challenge again? As where I think Armagh are just more consistent in their performances and have been over the last, since they won the All-Ireland. I think they've been very, very consistent across the board in their performances, and that wee bit more experience at that level, for me, will see them see it out. It's going to be tight. There's never ever much between Armagh and Down games, no matter what level of teams both teams have out. There's never much between them. I just see Armagh winning this by a couple of points.
See that I'm not trying to deflect from it, but the year Armagh won the All-Ireland, Down pushed them really hard, right? And obviously people saying about the Ulster, for Armagh to win that Ulster, there's a big onus in Armagh to get to an Ulster final.
But that's a big driving factor as well. You know, they've gone so close in 3 finals, so
penalty
they have
kicks.
two penalty kicks, and last year in extra time being beat as well. So they've been close, just haven't got across the line, and that is enough of a motivating factor from an Armagh point of view. I think it's 18 years this year since we last won an Ulster. I think the 99 team, there was an 18 year of a gap as well, 18 year of a gap. So
what was yours? 99
was the first time, yeah.
17 years, 17 I think that was.
So similar type of gaps, and you would think with obviously Armagh's success over the last couple of years and reaching 3 Ulster finals, they would have won one. But I think now they probably see it as a really, really good opportunity. Even before Donegal were beat, they would have seen this year as a real good opportunity to kick on and really win an Ulster title. Having Donegal gone from it, I'm not underestimating Down. I think what Down done to Donegal definitely showed flaws in Donegal's game last week, and there was the homework put in by the management team and the players that really went to town on Donegal's game plan as well. But something tells me that the influence of being beat over the last number of years in Ulster, and that'll be a driving factor for them to get back to an Ulster final and I suppose put a few wrongs right.
Yeah. We'll look forward to the Ulster final when we get there, hopefully. So, a big game to look forward to. Thanks to the two boys. Brilliant preview of the game. A huge match coming up in Clonus Sunday at 4 o'clock. Thanks to Shelbourne as well for coming on board with our Win with Armagh competition and also giving us their facilities today to record this podcast. So make sure to buy a ticket for the upcoming competition, and there's loads of small prizes up for grabs as well. So keep an eye out on all our social media channels. So thanks to Shelbourne, thanks to Kevin, and thanks to Stevie for coming on board.
Win £50,000 to spend how you like.
Here at Shelbourne Motors.
You could choose this car.
Or what about this one?
Why not grab two while you're at it?
£50,000 to spend your way at Shelbourne Motors.
It's entirely up to you. One car, two cars, it's your way.
It's a tough one for me, but I'd probably go with this one.
Enter now, tickets are only a £5.